This is a look at the BC Law Society of British Columbia, which is an arm of the British Columbia government, which is an arm of the federal government of Canada, our communist judicial system, for profit, for covering up child abuse. Emails went out to the BC Central Authority, the top crown lawyer for all of British Columbia, went out to the Law Society, which is one of the most powerful entities in British Columbia, an arm of the government, and went out to John Horgan and Justin Trudeau. This video is about the emails that went out to these people, showing an audio that showed the covering up of a child rape. It shows that I haven't seen my kids in 3 years, that there's just monumental amounts of evidence of parental alienation, child abuse, withholding of medical intervention. It shows a mom that possibly has Munchausen by proxy. But the main part of this video is that British Columbia and Canada, both these governments, which is one government, spend all their energy covering up child abuse. When shown child abuse, their answer is essentially to bugger off, and that's what they say. So this video shows that the government, John Horgan and his government, and the Ministry of Justice, their top lawyer, just essentially ignored the whole situation, just shrugged it off and walked away, which as a medical professional, that would be a major moral black eye for British Columbia. And it shows that the Law Society, which is a highly, highly powerful organization, blocked all further communications. So they sent me an email saying that they received 5 of my emails, and these emails all showed all this child abuse, and their only answer was to block my email, because the British Columbia government, which that is the Law Society, is the government of British Columbia and Canada. You have to understand it's all one entity. Their only goal is profit and propaganda, to make British Columbia and Canada look like it isn't the child abuse capital of the world. And it is. It is the child abuse capital of the world. So, yeah, I'm Ben Applegate. I witnessed the child rape, and my ex-partner belongs to a powerful Catholic family. Her family has decided that I'm no longer the father of my children, and have not let me see my kids for many, many years. And I've reached out to government. I reached out to the government's judicial system, because in Canada the judicial system is run by the government, and they all told me to fuck off. This British Columbia and Canada is about child abuse. It is about creating an image that there's no child abuse, but on one hand they do that, on the other hand they insulate child abusers. And yeah, read these emails and you can see what I'm talking about. All right, now hopefully you have read the emails and read the response by the BC Law Society. Two of the people that I want to shed light on, two very, very, very powerful people I want to shed light on in the BC government, which the BC Law Society is the BC government. Essentially, though, it's all controlled from the top. It's a top-down system. It's a communist system, highly corrupt system in Canada, and we're talking about the judicial system. Let's talk about David McCartney. He is one of the head people, the top people at the BC Law Society. He's a very powerful man. This is him right here. I spoke to David over the course of a couple weeks. He interviewed me hour-long conversation. He was looking for dirt on a dirty lawyer, but he wasn't. He was looking for dirt, I should say. Yeah, he was looking for dirt. He was going after Amanda Jane Rose. She was my lawyer for a while. I reported her to the Law Society, but she had already been disbarred by the Law Society. Amanda Jane Rose pissed a very powerful person off in British Columbia. He was a partner at a legal firm, a very powerful legal firm that Amanda worked for before she became a lawyer. She sued them. She told me she sued them for some sort of sexual harassment kind of deal. She won in court, and then she was able to go off and get her legal degree with the money she had made. I fully believe that David was um, calling me up for political reasons to put a nail in the coffin of Amanda Jane Rose. I wouldn't play along. I told my story, essentially what you read in those emails to David, well, to the Law Society. They were not to David, these emails, they were to the Law Society. David stepped in. He's a very powerful man. I want to show you how powerful David McCartney is. You can see this is his picture here. He kind of prides himself on being some sort of gangster. I've spoke about the legal system in Canada as being a gang. It is a gang. There's no doubt about it. They are a very profit-driven, highly corrupt political gang. Their objectives are money, power, keeping the power within the people that have it right now, um, and profit and politics. We're gonna go on about that in a little bit here over the course of the next couple of minutes. But hopefully, again, that you read those emails and understand that David McCartney, the Law Society, ignored my email and took it upon himself as the head of the BC Law Society to block all further communication. Even though this guy thought it was so important to have an hour-long interview with me about Amanda Jane Rose, who was my lawyer, who eventually lost her license, not because of me, but because she pissed off a powerful person in British Columbia, and they went after her and took her license away for 15 years. It's hard to prove that was the reason, but they got her officially on putting money that belonged to a client into a wrong account, which seems like a pretty minor offense, but the way the system works in Canada is you could rape you. Well, let's give an example here because we'll talk about this later. You could murder 49 people in British Columbia, which someone did murder 49 people in British Columbia, and we'll talk about that in a bit, and get away with all but 6 of those murders. That's how, but yet you can put money into a wrong account and lose your livelihood if the cartel decides that's what they want to do to you. So David McCartney, he's the one that decided that the Law Society should block my emails from telling them what's going on. Instead of helping, instead of guidance, they just block you. Blocked me. David McCartney, so he's been with the Law Society for, well, let's say over 22 years now. So he's a major cartel member now. He was with the RCMP, which is the um, federal police system, which is run by the PMO, Prime Minister's Office. Again, a top-down, very, even just to hold this role here as a team lead in the major crime section I mean, you're almost a god in Canada. But when you then get the position at the Law Society, now you are the ultimate supreme god. This man knows where the bodies are buried for sure, and he is untouchable, absolutely untouchable, and completely unaccountable on any level. He could do anything he wants to anybody in British Columbia, and there's nothing you can do about it. David McCartney, you can see he prides himself on even looking like a gangster. That's just how out of control these people are. He was part of various institutions, including the intelligence CSIS for a while. way back in his early days, 1 year, 11 months. Maybe that's where he, dug some of the bodies out and then, eventually worked his way to the very top of the chain. It may seem like being part of CSIS is higher than BC Law Society. You have to understand the BC Law Society is the ultimate. It is near the top of the cartel, the arms of the cartel. Extremely, extremely powerful organization beyond your wildest imagination. Anyway, so that's David McCartney, BC Law Society. Hopefully you read the emails and see that he did ignore my emails and decided that, he could not, during his interview with me, over a 1 hour interview, that I talked about too much about my own case, and in my opinion, his sole reason for calling me and doing that 1 hour phone interview, and this was legal on the record interview, was to get dirt on Amanda Rose. So it was completely political. It had nothing about what is right, wrong, about, what we think of as law. It was completely political in my view. The next person we want to talk about here is Sylvia. Now, Sylvia was also someone who tried to thwart and ignore the pleas that came from me in those emails that you read. She is extremely powerful, another top cartel member in what we call the judicial system of British Columbia. Let's see here. So this is her. And you can see she's part of the BC government. And she works from some mysterious place, a P.O. box number. So she doesn't even have a real address. But let's see where she came from. And so I talked about the murders of 49 women in British Columbia and how the cartel decided that the murderer should only be tried on 6 of those murders, not the 49 he admitted to, and even though there was body parts found all over his farm. I'm going to reference a book called On the Farm, and is a story about Willie Picton. Canada's basically one of the world's most prolific mass murderers, one of the most horrible mass murderers in the world, in the history of humankind. He claimed that he was going to murder 75 women. He only got to 49. He was quite upset. We're talking about Willie Picton. The government which is the police in Canada, and the Vancouver Police, which is a municipal police force, but one of the most corrupt in the world, decided to ignore Willie because he was only killing prostitutes and down and outs, and we were doing some cleaning. House cleaning is what the police considered it and what the government considered it, right? These were mostly Indigenous women being murdered, and the police ignored it. I went to high school close to where Willie's family owned the farm where the body parts were buried, and numerous people in my school talked about the murders that were going on and that they knew it was Willie Picton. I was just a kid, and these people were saying it was Willie Picton. You got to watch out. You got to watch out when you go to the farm. My friends partied on the farm. They claimed to have partied on the farm. Willie Picton had parties on his farm. Him and his brother. Even one of my teachers, I found out later, partied on his farm, and so it was well known. Willie Picton and his family were well known. They owned a pig farm. There was mention in the book that, and there was rumors going around when I was a kid, that the prostitutes were Indigenous prostitutes and Indigenous down and out homeless people that Willie killed were ground up into hamburger meat and sold in local small butcher shops. And Willie ran this pig farm, and at the same time he was murdering these women, and this is the way he got rid of the meat and maybe got joy out of serving this meat to people in the neighborhood. And yeah, you got to read it. It's on the farm. It's a wonderful book, but it shows how corrupt our system is. Now, what's really interesting, and this all ties in here, Willie killed 49 women. He told police, and there was evidence that he killed way, way, way more than the 6 people he was actually charged with. But there was a phone call made by someone top person in government that decided that it would look really, really bad for Canada if we were the home of one of the most horrific serial murderers in the world. And we are, Willie Picton. But it would look better if Willie was only charged for 6 of those 49 murders. And that's what happened. Willie was only charged for 6. He walked free on all the other murders. He's going to spend the rest of his life in jail because the cartel will make sure of that. But the politics of our judicial system, which is run top down by the federal government of Canada and its arms, the provincial government of Canada, decided that it would look bad. So it was a political reason why Willie was only charged with 6 of the murders. And the person who was the Crown Counsel, which was the government lawyers that were supposed to charge and convict Willie on those 49 murders, is the same woman who ignored my email, my pleas for help, and basically told me to go piss off. Her name is Sylvia Martorana, and she currently still works for the BC government. Kind of shocking, right? Yeah, Sylvia and David McCartney both knew that I witnessed a rape of a child, that rapist is still walking out and about, that rapist had run over a East Indian man in East Vancouver and dragged his body a whole block. The guy was nearly disintegrated before this rapist had known, and he was a rapist and a murderer as far as I'm concerned, that he had someone stuck under his vehicle as he came home high on cocaine that night. I knew this rapist quite well, and he had done numerous crimes, but I had told these 2 top, essentially, cartel members, the government, Canadian government cartel members, top people, remember? Lots of small underlings know about my story, the Ben Applegate story, but these are 2 top people who I reached out to, and that's what makes them more, I think, more brilliant, more, sheds more light on this, because the small people can say, well, it's not my job. But these are the top 2 of the most powerful people in British Columbia for the government. They can do anything. They can have people killed if they want, right? These are two extremely popular, powerful people. Don't know if they can have people killed. Well, why not, right? They're not going to go to jail. They know too many people, right? So, yeah, just wanted to shed light on these 2 people anyways. Again, maybe I retract, maybe I don't know if they can have people killed. They can make things happen. They can make things go away. They can do a lot of things, right? Yeah, pretty shocking. So yeah, David McCartney ignored my email, interviewed me, was looking for dirt on Amanda Jane Rose, couldn't get the dirt, decided to, scrap that project he was working on. I told him, about the rape. I told him about I haven't seen my kids in years. I told him about all the horrors, the medical notes, everything that was in that email, plus way, way more. He interviewed me for 1 hour, and now he has blocked me from even responding to the Law Society. And remember, the Law Society is an extremely, extremely corrupt organization. Their only purpose is power, money, and politics. There is nothing else about the Law Society. The idea about law and order and justice and all that kind of stuff is all absolute bullshit in Canada. And I'll talk about that later in a separate video about how the social fabric of Canada is going down the toilet, with the homelessness, with the drug overdoses, with the murder rate going up, even I don't know if people have been paying attention, but the murder rate is going up, and the amount of young people assaulting other young people. This is all because of our judicial system. The politics and the power of our judicial system is not about right and wrong. It is about power, it is about money, and it's about politics. And you can see here, David McCartney almost relishes, by this picture, he almost relishes in the idea, that he is some kind of gangster. And as far as I'm concerned, he is the most powerful gangster I have ever talked to in my life. And he is one of the most powerful gangsters in all of Canada. And you can see he's got ties to the RCMP, which is federal, which is known for corruption at the top, not the low guys. I know RCMP officers and they're salt of the earth, but the top people, extremely corrupt. And he was involved with CSIS, which is another extremely political organization. And what else was he involved in here? It's, as far as I know, he doesn't even have a law degree, right? And he's the head of the Law Society of British Columbia, and possibly no law degree. So yeah, it's not about law. The legal system is not about law. But anyways, I digress, and we'll talk more about the people that ignored the Ben Applegate story. I had mentioned the judicial system in Canada is a top-down system. Unlike the United States system, all Supreme Court judges are appointed by the PMO's office, which is the Prime Minister's office. A small group of white, powerful men and now women, white, powerful women, appoint the judges throughout Canada. So that you have the federal government that makes most of the rules in law, and they also appoint all the judges. So it is a 100% communist system. The government also has the money to sell propaganda when they get bad publicity. So the judicial system in Canada is 100% for profit, for power, to keep the power. Those who run the law will keep the power forever, right? More so than owning a company, because your widget that you sell could go out of fashion and you lose all your power, you lose all your money, or you only have that money in your pocket, but you have no more money to grow on. So those who control the law have the power, and they have the power to make the money. But another thing that's really important for the Canadian government is to sell the idea that Canada is a wonderful place. So they get a lot of bad publicity, and their policy and their corruption catches up with them. So they have to have a lot of cover-ups. And this creates a huge problem, where in Canada, we do not get the true story to a large degree. CBC, again, is run by the Canadian government. As I said, it's a communist state we live in, and there are, these powerful people who run the Canadian government, have a lot of pull. One of the things they do, and they have done for many, many decades, going back to Indian residential schools, is they cover up child abuse. And Canada is the child abuse capital of the world. The child abuse capital of mankind's history. That's how bad the child abuse in Canada is. It's a very complex system, but the people at the top, not only did they, like I had mentioned earlier, that Willie Pickton was only charged for 6 of the 49 murders for political reasons. They didn't want to charge him for the full 49 because it'd give Canada a black eye to have the world's most prolific modern mass murderer. It's bad for Canada's image of moose, which, there's not many moose left. So, but Another thing is you have to shop outside of Canada for your news because most of the news in Canada is manipulated. If the government can at all do that, in a large degree, they do that. They own the CBC, so they can have the CBC put whatever they want. But this is an American news channel, and you can read here that nearly 400 children rescued and 348 adults arrested in Canadian child pornography bust. Look at this number, 400 children. That is massive. Those are the ones that were rescued. Those are the ones that were caught, right? You got to remember we talked about David McCartney and we talked about Sylvia, two powerful people in the Canadian judicial system that I told about how I witnessed a rape, a child being raped. And their answer was, fuck off. We don't give a fuck. That was their answer. David actually blocked me from the BC Law Society, one of the most powerful arms of the government. He blocked me from even contacting them. This is what Canada is about. It is about power, it's about money, and it's about propaganda. Canada is a hideous, hideous monster. And you can see the NBC News here out of the United States has highlighted that nearly 400 children rescued. This is something that you would never. This is broken like by news agencies outside of Canada, right? And most of these people slip through the system, as when I told David and Sylvia about how I witnessed a rape and how that rapist is still in the streets, could be raping children right now as we speak. And the most two powerful arms of the judicial system, the BC government, the most powerful lawyer in the BC government, and the most powerful man at the BC Law Society both told me to fuck off. Just fuck off. We don't want to hear about your problems, right? We don't want to know about children being abused. We don't want to know about children being raped because their job is power and money and politics. It is nothing about children. It is nothing about doing what's right. It's nothing about what the common person thinks the judicial system is about. And I can tell you unequivocally that I worked downtown Vancouver for almost 30 years. And there was this place called Kitty Corner. And I was appalled. These were children working as prostitutes right on the open street as Vancouver police drove by. This was known to everybody. I found it appalling. It was disgusting. These were little skinny fucking kids, man. And yeah, Canada is the child abuse capital of the world. And now we have, you see, it's all like these. I have a prediction here, and I made this prediction some years ago when I started investigating the Canadian judicial system after me being, essentially just emotionally and financially raped in the family law judicial system, which is all interconnected. Still run top-down system. It's all one, right? Canada's a communist country. There is no such a thing as different, parts of the judicial system. It's all run by the top down. But for PR, you got sad face here, from the Toronto police, and you got sad face over here. Again, you're going to notice they're white people. Now, I'm not against white people, but what is happening in Canada right now? Canada's changing. The demographics are changing, right? I lived in Burnaby. Burnaby had the highest per capita, I think, rate of Asians coming in, right? Canada needs to integrate all races into the system, right? I mean, we're a cultural mosaic in Canada, right? That's what I was taught as a kid, and I fully believe in the Canadian system of having all races. But the white race wants the power, right? The Europeans that came here, the original ones, want the power. They don't want to give that power up. So they started out white men ruled, and then they said, well, this doesn't look good. It's all white men ruling. Let's get our wives involved. Let's get some white women in the front lines to show that we have diversity. And then let's put some dresses on some dudes and we'll call them, the rainbow people. So it shows somewhere we have more diversity, right? But eventually we're going to have non-whites, whether they wear dresses or whether they're women or what, in the front lines. But to get to the top in Canada, you have to be really, really smart and you have to be really, really corrupt. And you have to have a face that looks serious, but you have to be okay with child pornography, child abuse, theft, um, all the crimes that the government does against its people, against children, against families. You have to be okay with that. And you have to know how to play the game. So what's going to happen is we're going to create in Canada super corruption beyond your wildest dreams. And I've already seen that. I've already seen non-whites vying for positions of power, and they make it sometimes they just don't get the nuance of how you should not advertise that you're corrupt, but you're trying to get the eye of the powerful leaders. So they have to know that you are bendable. They don't call it corruption. They call it just bending, maybe looking away, the politics of the country, right? But we are attracting corrupt people because to get to the top, you have to be corrupt. Now, there's the nuance that you have to pretend you're good, but overall, you have to be really, really corruptible, bendable, but still have the pretty face, right? Oh, I'm so serious. Look at her, so serious here. Oh, I'm so serious. I'm so sad. I was just shocked that there was 400 children rescued, right? You got to remember the David McCartneys and the Sylvia whatever from the BC government, top people. I told that I witnessed a rape, and they both told me to fuck off. I told them that I hadn't seen my kids and they'd been abducted by a Catholic family. They both told me to fuck off. These 400 children rescued were probably rescued by sources outside of Canada. And it was probably Americans and Europeans that said, hey, we know of a child pornography ring and it's in your country. And then Canada had to do something. But if it was all up to Canada, this whole child pornography bust would have been whitewashed and buried, just like the top people in the Canadian government downplayed Willie Picton's mass murder rampage of 49 women and downplayed it to only 6, right? Because it's all about politics. And I fully believe that Canada is going to suffer for decades and decades to come with all this child pornography going on. And trust me, this is going on every fucking single day in Canada by the gazillions. There's children being abused every single day in Canada as these people smile for the camera and the government sells us propaganda that Canada is a happy, great, wonderful place. And the homelessness grows day in and day out as the top people steal from the people underneath them and essentially gives them no reason to live anymore. It gives them no reason to prosper anymore because Canada is so fucking corrupt. I mean, how do you prove this stuff? You just have to go back and read those emails I sent to the BC Law Society and to the top, to Dave McCartney, the top person. And remember, David McCartney didn't get those emails. They were handed to him from other top people in the highly corrupt BC Law Society. And then he made the executive decision just to block me. And then you have the top BC, right? It's the NDP now that advertise that they are the most humanized government in BC, right? We had Christy Clark. She was just an absolute monster, but at least, you know, she showed her cards. The NDP, whether they don't have control of their government, well, they're just the puppets, right? They can't do anything. But the top person, the Sylvia, She is one of the most powerful people in Canada. And she basically, after reading my emails and being told about the rape, showed given a copy of the rape tape, um, the audio, the cover up, and the child abuse and all that. Her answer was, fuck off. She wouldn't even give me a direction to go, and she gave me dead ends. And as a top lawyer, she would know every direction she sent me was a joke. They were dead ends, right? And yeah. So, anyways, I just wanted to share that Canada is an absolute fucking cesspool. Yeah, all these organizations that are quasi-government, well, they all are government, but they pretend that they are only quasi-government or they're at arm's reach from the government. You have to know that Canada is a cesspool of debauchery and corruption, and it's all about power and money and politics and looking like a nice place to live. But I can tell you, from my experience of over a decade of dealing with the legal system in Canada, having my two children abducted from me as a dad and abused, and me, a slightly separate issue, witnessing a child being raped and going to the Vancouver police, going to the government, you know, taking it upon myself to record an audio, recording of one of the people that covered it up, um, and going nowhere, right? And this is happening to tens and tens and tens of thousands of people in Canada right now as we speak. It is a absolute disgrace.